Hello everyone, I hope you're having a wonderful day. Today's video takes us into a dramatic turning point, an imagined wedding between Uri and Tu Tieu that is suddenly torn apart when Uri's mother steps forward to oppose it. From that heartbreaking vision, we follow Tu Tieu as she sells grapefruits at the market, only to face painful misunderstandings with her mother and Linh. And yet, through storms and tears, Uri's love becomes the anchor that helps her endure. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you won't miss the next episode. Uri and Tu Tieu stand beneath a simple arch of flowers, hands trembling as they prepare to exchange rings. The village air is hushed, the moment brimming with anticipation. Just as Uri lifts his hand toward Tu Tieu, his mother steps forward, her face stern and unyielding. "No," she declares, her voice sharp as steel. "This marriage cannot happen." The crowd gasps. Tu Tieu freezes, her lips quivering. She clutches the ring, her tears spilling freely as the dream collapses before her eyes. Uri stands paralyzed, torn between the woman he loves and the mother who raised him. Silence presses heavily, broken only by Tu Tieu's sobs, echoing like a fragile heart shattering. The image lingers. Love interrupted, trust shattered, happiness ripped away in a single breath. And with that imagined heartbreak, we return to the present, where the wound of misunderstanding feels just as real. Beneath the lush grapefruit canopy, Tu Tieu pauses. The air is warm, carrying the soft tang of citrus. She runs her fingertips across a leaf, the veins rough against her skin, as if brushing against the scars of her own past. The orchard hums with life, yet inside her, old fears resurface. She remembers a time when loneliness pressed on her like endless rain. Meeting Uri had changed everything. His love was not only tender, but healing, binding her to family and community in ways she once thought impossible. But even in joy, shadows creep. Will this happiness last? She wonders quietly. Her eyes trace the small, unripe fruits, imagining them ripening into golden orbs, symbols of hope she clings to. She whispers to herself, "If my loved ones are safe and healthy, I ask for nothing more." Her smile is soft, but beneath it lies unease, a fear of losing the fragile peace she's found. She straightens, breathing deeply, as if drawing strength from the orchard itself. The trees stand tall, guardians of her resilience. She takes slow, deliberate steps, savoring the calm before life tests her again. Far from the orchard, Uri moves carefully through the dense forest. Twigs crunch underfoot, birds call overhead, and shafts of light pierce the canopy. He checks each trap methodically, the forest alive with both sound and silence. Once, he had traded the steady rhythm of a corporate job for this life, uncertain, but filled with freedom. Yet what anchors him now is not ambition, but Tu Tieu. Her laughter, her strength, her vulnerability, they have become his compass. "She's everything," he murmurs, loosening the rope of a trap that holds a wild chicken. He pictures her smile when he brings the bird home, and his heart swells with determination. With Tu Tieu, we'll build something lasting, a home, a love strong enough to endure anything. For a fleeting second, doubt flickers. What if the world refuses to let them be? He shakes the thought away, carrying the chickens with a quiet pride, his steps steady toward the horizon where Tu Tieu waits. The forest, with its whispers of leaves and unseen creatures, bears silent witness to his vow. Every step he takes echoes with a promise. to protect her, to love her, no matter the storms ahead. At noon, the village market bustles. Voices overlap. Bargains struck. Laughter ringing. The clatter of baskets and motorbikes. Tu Tieu sits at her small stall. Rows of golden grapefruits gleaming under the sun. Her forehead glistens with sweat, but her smile radiates warmth as a customer pauses. "How much for a grapefruit?" he asks. 10,000 dong, she replies, voice bright despite the heat. He buys 5, tasting a slice with approval. "Delicious," he nods, and she beams, carefully wrapping the fruits. For a moment, happiness flares. A small success, proof of her effort. She watches him disappear into the crowd, and though her joy flickers, it feels fragile, as if one harsh word could extinguish it. The memory of selling melons, of being chased and humiliated, rises unbidden. She pushes it down, steadying herself with a deep breath. The grapefruits are more than fruit. They are pieces of her struggle, her hope. She strokes one gently, grounding herself in its weight, in its scent. Around her, the market roars with life, but inside, she holds both fear and determination. She stands taller, ready for the next customer, her smile unwavering. In the blaze of the sun, she is like a flower blooming in heat, delicate but enduring. But peace does not last. 2 figures approach, her mother and Linh. Her mother leans heavily on Linh, her steps weary, her face drawn with fatigue. "How much for a grapefruit?" her mother asks, her voice softer than usual. 10,000 dong. Tu Tieu answers quickly, eager, almost desperate to please. "Here, please taste one. It's sweet." Her mother waves the offer away, worrying instead about the heat, urging her to return home. Tu Tieu's hands shake as she offers the fruits for free, hoping to bridge the gap. But her mother refuses, reminding her that she already has grapefruits to sell later. The air thickens. The old wound of the melon-selling incident reopens as Tu Tieu's voice sharpens. Linh knew details of what happened that day. How? She wasn't there. Those people must have been her friends. Lin's eyes narrow, her voice cool. "I only passed by. Don't accuse me." Anger rises, and Tu Tieu's threat hangs heavy. "Should I call the police?" Her mother intervenes, her voice trembling but firm. "Don't. Those people were locals. They weren't Lin's friends. Don't misunderstand. Linh wants you to live with us, to be safe." The words cut deeper than any insult. Tu Tieu stares at her mother, betrayal searing. "You never lived with me since I was young," she whispers, her throat tight. "And now, you choose her over me." Her mother's silence is answer enough. Lin's parting words sting. "Fine, I won't come again." They turn and walk away, leaving Tu Tieu rooted to the spot. The market noise blurs. The sun burns down. But inside her, the pain rages hotter than the midday heat. She looks at her grapefruits, once symbols of hope, now blurred by tears. They seem to dissolve into illusions, dreams of family, of belonging, shattering in the unforgiving sun. The market bustles on, indifferent, as Tu Tieu's world narrows to the wound of betrayal. The imagined wedding returns to her mind. The moment of rings interrupted, happiness broken. Once again, she feels abandoned, her cries unheard, her love tested against forces stronger than her will. Rain falls steadily, veiling the road as Tu Tieu pedals home. Her bike rattles beneath the weight of unsold grapefruits, tied loosely with frayed ropes. Each drop stings her skin, mingling with the hot tears she can no longer hold back. "Mother doesn't believe me," she whispers, the words carried away by the storm. The betrayal cuts deeper than the rain's chill. She thinks of the imagined wedding again, the ring slipping from her trembling fingers, Uri frozen, her mother's voice striking her like thunder. Reality has mirrored the dream. Once again, her heart is left exposed, misunderstood, unprotected. Her vow hardens through the tears. She will not sell grapefruits anymore. Each fruit feels heavier than its weight, swollen with disappointment. The road stretches endlessly, a ribbon of mud and water, reminding her of the years when loneliness was her only companion. The farther she rides, the more her chest tightens, grief gnawing at her with every turn of the wheels. At the farm, the rain does not relent. Tu Tieu slips into the yard, drenched, her clothes clinging. She releases the chickens Uri brought home earlier, scattering corn with trembling hands. They peck eagerly, blissfully ignorant of her sorrow. She envies their simplicity, their freedom from the weight of family wounds. She leans against the eaves, rain dripping from her hair, replaying her mother's defense of Lin and Lin's sharp dismissal. "Mother chose her, not me," she mutters, her voice breaking. Hugging herself against the cold, she feels the farm's serenity mocked by the storm raging within her chest. The fields blur before her, rain weaving everything into shadows. The hope that once lit her heart now flickers like a dying lantern, every gust of memory threatening to snuff it out. She closes her eyes, torn between surrender and resilience, the thunder outside echoing her turmoil. Inside the small kitchen, warmth flickers to life. Uri stands over the stove, carefully preparing sweet grapefruit peel soup. He peels the rinds, chops them into strips, soaks them to chase away the bitterness, then cooks them with green beans and sugarcane syrup. His movements are deliberate, as though each stir is an act of devotion. He sprinkles tapioca starch into the pot, his brow furrowed in concentration. Tu Tieu enters, shoulders slumped, eyes swollen red from crying. The scent of boiling grapefruit peel fills the air, sharp yet soothing. She recounts what happened at the market, her mother's refusal, Lin's denial, the sting of betrayal. Her words tumble out, breaking apart with sobs. "Mother didn't believe me," she chokes, her hands clutching the edge of the table as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. Uri turns, his gaze steady. He doesn't rush to speak. Instead, he lets silence cradle her pain before saying gently, "She won't abandon you. I'll find out the truth about the chase. You're not alone." His voice, calm and certain, anchors her trembling heart. He guides her to the table, placing a steaming bowl before her. The soup glistens golden, laced with coconut milk and ginger, fragrant with honey. "Eat, even if you're sad. This is for you," he says, his hand resting lightly on her shoulder. She lifts the spoon, the warm sweetness coating her tongue, seeping into the cracks of her broken heart. For the first time since the confrontation, she exhales without shuddering. Uri watches her quietly, his presence a shield against the storm still pounding outside. Between bites, she confesses her failed attempt to gift grapefruits to her mother. Uri smiles softly. "Then we'll try again, together. Sometimes love takes more than one offering." The kitchen glows with golden light, the storm outside muted. Their laughter slowly returns as Uri explains other uses of grapefruit peel: joking gently to lighten her mood. For a moment, Tu Tieu feels the world shift, as though the darkness loosens its grip. Later that night, the rain softens. Moonlight pierces the clouds, spilling silver across the farm. Tu Tieu sits beside Uri, her hand in his, her eyes reflecting the pale glow. She thinks of the imagined wedding again, but this time, the image changes. Instead of her mother's opposition drowning her in tears, she sees Uri standing tall, defiant, refusing to let her face the world alone. Her chest warms, the fragile spark of hope reigniting. She leans her head against his shoulder, whispering, "With you, I'm not afraid anymore." Uri squeezes her hand, his voice quiet but resolute. "Whatever comes, I'll be here. We'll endure together." The orchard beyond the window rustles in the night breeze, the trees swaying as if nodding in agreement. The storm has passed, leaving behind not just damp soil and dripping leaves, but also a renewed determination. Tu Tieu closes her eyes, listening to Uri's steady breath beside her. For the first time since the market, she feels safe. The pain has not disappeared, but it no longer defines her. With Uri's love as her anchor, she knows she can face her mother again, confront the misunderstandings, and rebuild the broken bridge. In that quiet kitchen, with the sweet soup lingering on her tongue and Uri's hand clasping hers, Tu Tieu reclaims her light. The wounds may remain, but they no longer own her. Tomorrow will bring challenges, but tonight she allows herself to rest in the fragile but growing hope that their love, tested, scarred, and fiercely defended, will endure. The night hums softly around them, carrying a promise that even in the fiercest storm, love can kindle a flame strong enough to guide them through.
Câu chuyện bắt đầu với một viễn cảnh đầy kịch tính. Uri và Tử Tiêu chuẩn bị trao nhẫn thì mẹ của Uri ngắt lời và phản đối dữ dội, khiến Tử Tiêu rơi nước mắt và Uri chết nặng vì sốc. Từ nỗi đau tưởng tượng này, câu chuyện chuyển sang những đấu tranh thực sự của Tử Tiêu dưới những cây bưởi. Cô suy ngẫm về những khó khăn của mình và bám víu vào tình yêu mạnh mẽ của Uri. Tại khu chợ nhộn nhịp, một cuộc đối đầu cay đắng giữa mẹ cô và Linh đã khơi lại những vết thương cũ, khiến cô cảm thấy như giấc mơ đám cưới của mình một lần nữa bị phá hủy. Ướt đẫm mưa, cô trở về nhà trong tâm trạng tan vỡ, đặt câu hỏi về vị trí của mình trong gia đình. Tuy nhiên, Uri với sự tận tâm thầm lặng đã an ủi cô và chuẩn bị món súp vỏ bưởi ngọt ngào, cho thấy rằng tình yêu có thể chữa lành ngay cả nỗi đau sâu sắc nhất. Cuối cùng, Tử Tiêu lại tìm thấy hy vọng mong manh, được neo giữ bởi sự hiện diện kiên định của Uri.